there was nothing, right? So Schumer never really planned on fighting Republicans. He was really banking on House Speaker Mike Johnson failing to whip up the votes in the House to pass the CR bill. And the reason why Schumer was under that impression is because there's that House Freedom Caucus, right? That those are the fiscal conservatives within the GOP.
In this video, Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks reports on the continuing failures of the Democrat Party. In this clip, Ana Kasparian focuses on Chuck Schumer's poor leadership. With that, let's watch Ana Kasparian once again lose her mind over the Democrat Party and the weakness of Chuck Schumer.
But I'm afraid that it may be time for the Senate Democrats to pick new leadership as we move forward.
Do you still have faith in Senator Schumer to lead the Democratic caucus in the Senate?
I myself don't give away anything for nothing. And I think that's what happened the other day.
I know everyone's beating up on Chuck, and I strongly disagree with him. Strongly. No one is in the caucus more critical of Schumer than I am. But it's not Schumer. It's the caucus. It's not the caucus. It's the Democratic Party.
True, Bernie. It's not just about Schumer. It really has to do with the entirety of the Democratic Party at the moment. We're going to get back to Senator Sanders in just a moment. But it's important to know that the backlash towards Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has grown in recent days, if you can believe it, with members of his own party publicly throwing him under the bus following his decision to help Republicans pass the government funding bill. Now, Democratic voters have also been absolutely furious about this, especially since Schumer had claimed that he was going to fight, not help Republicans in passing that CR bill, continuing resolution that keeps the government funded through September. Plus, the continuing resolution bill includes a provision that effectively allows Donald Trump to reallocate the money in the bill for other matters as he sees fit, without any approval from Congress. So that gives Trump a lot more power in regard to taxpayer resources and where that money ends up going. Now, during an event to oppose House Republicans and their efforts to cut Medicaid, Nancy Pelosi was asked whether she trusts Senator Schumer to lead the Democratic caucus in the Senate, and she basically threw him under the bus. Take a look.
I think they need to get rid of all the dinosaurs like Schumer and Pelosi, throw Mitch McConnell in there, Maxine Waters, just all of them. But think about how long Chuck Schumer has been a voice for the Democrat Party, loyally carrying water for them, having to keep a straight face while he spews their BS narratives. But because he helped pass a bill that made sense to keep the government funded through September, his whole party is willing to forget about his years of service to them. I'm not praising Chuck Schumer, by the way, but if you're a Democrat, you can't deny that he's been an important voice in your party for years. But I feel like I'm just repeating the same patterns with Democrats on this channel all the time. The second he's not useful for them, or the second that they need a scapegoat, it doesn't matter how much you've done for the party. Every single one of them will throw you under the bus. Again, because each individual in the leadership of the Democrat Party is all about money and power. And as far as power specifically, which I'd argue is most important to them, the party's going in the wrong direction. So none of them can ever look inward. It's always someone else's fault, even one of their own. If you follow politics closely at all, this is zero surprise to you, but it just highlights how basic values like loyalty, friendship, introspection, all of these things are lost on Democrats. The Democrat leadership, mainstream media, they just lie and say whatever they need to say in their best interest. If that happens to align with the Democrat Party, cool. But if not, they're going to do what works best in their eyes for themselves. Let's get back to the video.
I myself don't give away anything for nothing. And I think that's what happened the other day. We could have, in my view, perhaps gotten them to agree to a third way, which was a bipartisan CR for 4 weeks, in which we could have had bipartisan legislation to go forward. I'm an appropriator. Mr. Schiff is an appropriator, and with the Appropriations Committee. They may not have agreed to it, but at least the public would have seen they're not agreeing to it.
Okay, putting aside Pelosi's claim that she never agrees to something without getting something in return. I find that kind of hard to believe. But just putting that aside for now, she is correct in calling Schumer out for, in the very least, failing to negotiate to get something in that bill on behalf of the Democratic Party. There was nothing, right? So Schumer never really planned on fighting Republicans. He was really banking on House Speaker Mike Johnson failing to whip up the votes in the House to pass the CR bill. And the reason why Schumer was under that impression is because there's that House Freedom Caucus, right? That those are the fiscal conservatives within the GOP. These are the individuals who tend to give folks like Mike Johnson a massive headache because they want to cut funding. They don't want to continue with the current funding that we have. They don't want to increase funding. They're deficit hawks, at least they claim to be. Now, the only Republican who voted against the CR in the House ended up being Thomas Massie. And so Mike Johnson clearly had enough votes, and that effectively called Schumer's bluff in the Senate.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
So he had to pivot, and rather than pivoting to, okay, well, Senate Democrats have some leverage, so why don't we use that leverage to at least get something, some provision that we find beneficial in the CR bill before helping Republicans pass it? But he didn't do that. Now, right now, he's claiming he did, but I'm not buying it for a second. By the way, that wasn't the first time that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had called out Chuck Schumer and threw him under the bus. She did stop short of calling for new leadership to replace Schumer, but last week on Friday, she did suggest that his move had played into the false choice to either shut down the government or give Trump and Musk a blank check. And in regard to whether or not she wants him to step down as the Senate Minority Leader, she's kind of brushed that aside. She's not committing to that. In fact, she says what happened last week was last week. We're going into the future. But see, I think that's part of the problem. I really do. Because failing.
First of all, Donald Trump and Elon Musk didn't get a blank check. However, I would trust a blank check in their hands over any Democrat in the history of this country, because she just called one part of the party deficit hawks. I don't know if she's trying to make that a negative thing, but the Democrat Party is a bunch of war hawks. So one party roots for more killing and carnage and dumping money into the military-industrial complex, and one party wants to cut the deficit. I think I prefer the deficit hawk label over the war hawk label. But I have noticed this about Democrats, that they have ADHD. You know, you heard Nancy Pelosi ripping Chuck Schumer, and then Show to Anna said like a week later, she was like, oh, that was last week or something like that. This is very typical. They'll be all up in arms about something to show how tough they are and battling the bad Republicans. But when the buzz around that issue dies down, as it inevitably does, they're on to the next social movement of the day. Who knows? Maybe this time it's federal mandate to put tampons in boys' restrooms. I think Nancy Pelosi talking out of both sides of her mouth there is just a great example of what I always say, that Democrats say what they think voters want to hear in the moment, but then when it's out of the news, they say whatever the new thing is that's important to voters in that moment. And with the news moving so quickly, it changes all the time. But it also goes hand in hand with another thing I always say, which is the Democrats never build. They never come up with solutions. They never pursue anything that will help the American people or follow through on anything, because their entire party is just about talk. When Trump does something, they complain about it. When there's a hot button issue, they have a lot to say about it. But nothing ever gets done by them because they're all so wrapped up in themselves and don't care about the voters. Anyway, let's wrap up the video.
Failure to lead should lead to consequences. If you are unable to have a strategy in place, if you are unable to be an effective leader, not just for the Democratic Party, but all the Democratic voters that the Democratic Party is supposed to represent, then you really have no business being the leader of the Democratic caucus in the Senate. And make no mistake about it, Schumer has been a failure in that role for a while now. I mean, we're talking about the guy who helped Donald Trump fast track confirmation of his federal judges. These are lifetime appointments. He struck a deal with Mitch McConnell during Trump's first term to make that happen. And honestly, I was pretty disappointed in the lack of backlash towards Schumer at that time. But I'm guessing that the frustration among the electorate and the frustration among other Democratic members of Congress has been growing, has been festering. And what happened with the CR bill is probably the straw that broke the camel's back. And let's just be clear, because Democratic voters.
As I was about to wrap up this video, I was going to say, people won't be talking about Chuck Schumer or why they're upset with him in a couple of weeks, but I don't think that's right. Democrat Party has no leadership. They have no vision. They have no strategy. American people have seen through all of their lies and BS. And I think the voters, metaphorically, are out for blood. So the Democrat Party is looking for a fall guy, and everyone wants to point the finger somewhere else so it's not on them. So when they see Chuck Schumer getting some heat, they'll all jump on that bandwagon and attempt to use him as a sacrifice. So not to mention, I just saw something that said Chuck Schumer's approval rating among Democrats is like 30% or something. I don't have the number. I don't know if I have the number exactly right, if I've gotten any details wrong, but he's not very popular right now. So I think his time as Senate leader is short, but I guess that remains to be seen. We want to hear from you. What do you all think of Chuck Schumer helping pass a continuing resolution? Was it the right move for the American people? Are the Democrats right to be upset with him? And do you agree with my characterization of the Democrats that they have no scruples and they're willing to throw anybody under the bus, and they're willing to say, do whatever or lie to achieve their own personal political goals or in the pursuit of money or power? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.